Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So now we're going to discuss the main parts of the autonomic nervous system, that is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Uh, Before discussing the differences between the two, first we have to understand the similarities between the two systems, and the similarities are whatever we said about the autonomic nervous system is true both for the sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic outflow or system. And that is to say that uh, both the sympathetic and the parasympathetics, they innervate the cardiac muscle, the smooth muscle, and the glands, and they do that. They reach their target organs by a two neuron pathway. That is the second point. And one of the neurons, the first neuron, has its cell body in the central nervous system, and the second neuron has its cell body in the peripheral nervous system or the ganglia. And this is true both for the sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic system. And the first neuron, which is the cell body, is within the central nervous system, is derived from embryologically from the ectoderm, and the second cell body uh, uh, of the cell body of the second neuron is derived from the neural crest. Now, all these facts are true, and they apply both to the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. So now, what are the differences? So, in order to enumerate the differences, we have to ask a little bit more specific questions about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. And one of the questions regarding that is if we think about the preganglionics or preganglionic nerve fibers, where are they located in the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system? So we'll get different answers to that. If you see on this slide, on the left side of the diagram, this left slide, this is of the sympathetic system, and as you can see that the cell bodies of the preganglionic nerve fibers, they are present in the spinal cord. This and all from the T1 level to L2 level. All the preganglionic fibers, they arise from the spinal cord in the sympathetic system, and they are present from T1 to L2 levels in the spinal cord. You can see all the cell bodies are present. Over here, there are no cell bodies located higher above up to the brainstem, nor in neither the cervical area of the spinal cord, nor there are any cell bodies for the sympathetic system below L2. So the cell bodies of the preganglionic nerve fibers are restricted to the spinal cord from the T1 to L2 levels. Now, if you look at the parasympathetic system, we can see that there are no cell bodies located of the parasympathetic system between the T1 and the L2 levels, but the preganglionic cell bodies are present higher up into the brain, in the brainstem of the parasympathetics, and they're associated with the cranial nerves 3, 7, 9, and 10. Cranial nerves 3, 7, 9, and 10. And they are down here below at the sacral level S2, 3, and 4. So they are present. The preganglionic cell bodies or the nerve fibers have their cell bodies present either in the cranial part or the sacral part of this cranial part, above the spinal cord in the brainstem, and then the sacral part S2, 3, and 4. So that is why the parasympathetic outflow is called the craniosacral outflow. Craniosacral outflow, and the sympathetic outflow is known as the thoracolumbar outflow. The thoracolumbar outflow. So this is one of the main differences when we look at the location of the preganglionics. The first difference, major difference. Now we can ask the same question about the postganglionic nerve fibers, where they are located in the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. And then we'll hit upon another difference, fundamental difference between the two. When we ask this question about the postganglionic cell bodies, where they are present in the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. Well, you can see that in order to answer that question, we'll have to divide because the postganglionic cell bodies are present in the peripheral nervous system, both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic cell bodies, postganglionic cell bodies. They are both present in the peripheral nervous system. We'll have to divide the regions of the peripheral nervous system. We'll have to see whether they are close to the CNS and away from the target organ, or whether they are away from the CNS and close to the target organ. It's pretty much basically saying the same thing, but in reverse. Something that is close to the CNS will be far from the target organ, and something that is far from the CNS will be close to the target organ. So, as you can see, that the postganglionic fibers, these are the postganglionic cell bodies of the sympathetic system. They are close to the CNS, they are very close to the spinal cord. They're in the paravertebral ganglia, just next to the vertebral column of the spinal cord. So the moment the preganglionics exit from the spinal cord, they enter the ganglia right there. So the preganglionic fibers are short. The preganglionic axons are very short in the sympathetic system. And in the postganglion, so since they are very close to the CNS, the postganglionic neurons or the cell bodies are very close to the CNS in the sympathetic system, they are far from the target organs. So in the sympathetic system, the preganglionic fibers are short and the postganglionic fibers are long. Whereas in contrast, if you see the parasympathetic system, you can see that the preganglionics have to travel far away to the ganglia, because the postganglionic fibers are located close to the target organs. Basically, they're actually inside the body wall of the target organs, and very, very near to the target organs. So the preganglionic fibers are long in the parasympathetic system, and the postganglionic fibers are short, because postganglionic cell bodies are located close to the target organs in the parasympathetic system, whereas in the sympathetic system it is the reverse. Once again, in the sympathetic system, and the postganglionic cell bodies are located close to the central nervous system. Therefore, the preganglionic fibers are short, the postganglionic fibers are long, and in the parasympathetic system it is the opposite. The postganglionic cell bodies are located close to the target organ, so they are far from the CNS. Therefore, the preganglionic fibers are long and the postganglionic fibers are short. So these are one of the main fundamental differences, anatomical differences between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. Now, another difference can be in the difference between the function of the two systems. The sympathetic system is also known as the fright or flight system. And the parasympathetic system is also known as the rest and digest system. Or one way of saying it in terms of function is that the sympathetic system controls responses that are related to the fright and flight reactions. For example, if someone has to run, so there is in an emergency situation, the heart rate has to increase, and the airways have to dilate in order to suck in more air into the lungs. So those responses in an emergency situation are controlled by the sympathetic system. They're going to dilate the airways, they're going to increase the heart rate and increase the sweat. And the parasympathetic system is generally opposite to that, and the parasympathetic system is one it will control responses when we are resting and digesting things, for example, increasing when we've just taken our food or meal. It will increase the peristalsis. It will increase the secretions in the gastrointestinal tract. So pretty much in generally we can say that the functions of the two systems are opposite to each other. For example, the sympathetic system will dilate the pupil, and the parasympathetic system will constrict the pupil. It will dilate. The sympathetic system will dilate the sphincters, and it will the sympathetic system will constrict the sphincters, and the parasympathetic system will dilate the sphincters.